Well, today we got to kind of regress a little bit, I think, and address the bit situation. And the lady got a hold of us, and she couldn't understand the concept of why there's tongue relief. And then if you take another bit, it's a straight bar across. And in the Western bit, it was confusing. Well, it can get confusing. But the way I look at it is two things: form and function. Form, Deb, you give your idea of form.
Well, to me, form and function happens when people talk about, for instance, this beautiful Santa Barbara cheek piece has the beautiful aesthetic form, but it also is built a certain way so that it works a certain way. So to me, that's form and function.
Okay, and what she's getting at is that the form is the artistic side, and the function is this is the counterbalance. So that when you pull on the bit, the weight behind the mouthpiece pushes the bit back as quick as it can possibly go back. That's the function. Okay, now that's the cheek piece, not even talking about the mouthpiece. Okay, form. This is a San Joaquin mouthpiece. That's considered a half-breed with a cricket. Here's the tongue relief. Okay, here's a spade with a straight bar. There is no tongue relief. Okay, this is a leverage bit that works off the curb strap. This is a signal bit that works off the spoon. If you notice the height of the spoon, it would be laying on the tongue, and the tongue, when relaxed, is going to be all the way down here, and this much is laying on the tongue, this whole thing. So when this part of the spade goes away from the tongue, that's the signal. Okay. This is two completely different chapters of what we're talking about here. Now, the word tongue relief, which you won't see on a spade, is here. Okay. My own personal opinion is I've hung a San Joaquin mouthpiece, half-breed, on a lot of horses, and I haven't found a horse yet that didn't take to it right off the bat. And my own opinion was that the fact is they could still roll the cricket, which they enjoy doing, but there was a space here for the tongue to relax even more. Okay, so now when you want to pick this bit up, the horse can take the mouthpiece and pick it up. You'll see it raise up in the horse's skull. And the reason I want a horse to pick a bit up is because what I've found in Western bits and snaffles, my snaffle, is that when a horse picks a bit up, they're holding it literally in their mouth so they can work. And I'd be like working cattle out of a corral or in the gate, and things are getting pretty fast. Well, I'm on a loose rein, and the horse is holding the bit. And then when I get done, I put my rein down, and the horse lets the bit down, they'll roll the cricket. But with all this steel, if they'll pick up the bit, it's not going to be flopping around. Every time they turn this way, it's not going to go like a bell. So the tongue relief, maybe the horses like it because they can hold the bit easier with their tongue in their mouth. And believe me, there's 1,000 opinions about what I'm talking about. All right, the extreme tongue relief for me, here's the San Joaquin mouthpiece. Here's the missing link snaffle. The idea of the missing link snaffle was so that from here to here, a horse can pick it up with their tongue and hold it. Now, underneath their tongue, there's all this room. So the idea was so that this is the biggest, widest tongue relief that you'll ever find. And it makes it really nice for a horse to just pick it up and hold it. And so they can just use their whole tongue to do it. And oh, by the way, when they're rolling the cricket and their tongue has got this much room, it's more comfortable rolling the cricket. That's why it's not a straight bar. Okay, now the word form, to me. Form is when you form something. This is a mouthpiece. When people were making bits and they were manufacturing bits, they could take a piece of round stock, steel, heat it up at certain points, and bend it around a jig and end up with a mouthpiece. The reason they wanted the mouthpiece was A, to put a cricket in, or B, the horse couldn't get its tongue over the straight bar, which is here. Well, it's impossible for this horse to get its tongue over this spade because of the way it's made. It ain't going to happen. That's why then the braces have two functions. That's also part of keeping the tongue in their mouth. Okay, the half-breed. The height of the half-breed port is higher than the Western bit. Okay, once again, it allows room for the tongue to relax, plus room for the cricket, which is form, plus height for the tongue to go over, which is function, to not go over. Here's a high port Western bit.
You want to give the disclaimer that this is the oldest one. This is one of the first ones you made, so it doesn't look like the ones we currently have. I think I just said it. So.
Yes, you did. Deb just covered that. What happens when you make something, as it evolves, you hopefully improve it, which is what we did since this first started. Okay, I can use this bit, no problem, but we've made the cricket higher, which gives more tongue relief underneath it. This was a little wider, and this was cleaner. So that's form. Function, that's a Western bit. And the point of my story was that a blacksmith with a piece of spoke out of a wheel, steel iron spoke, cold roll spoke, or a hay rake, could take a piece of steel and heat it up and make a mouthpiece. That's form. He formed the mouthpiece by heating up the steel. Okay. This is two separate entities. That's a straight piece of round stock and formed to be able to go around the mouthpiece to keep it in place. This is not part of this. This is a separate piece of steel.
So that required welding.
Right. This was welded on. This was just a round piece of round stock, and then the mouthpiece was welded on and filed down to make it nice and smooth. Okay, you can weld with a forge. The old blacksmiths welded all the time with forges. This is a hand-forged ring. It's probably 150 years old. I found it laying in the pasture. Well, this was hand-forged and welded by a blacksmith. So you can appreciate how things could have been made back then and evolved. So the real key to all of this, everything I'm showing you, the real key to it is that the bottom line is that the tongue can feel more comfortable. The downside is, people say, and I don't argue with it, is that when you have the tongue up in this groove, it allows the bars to go, this part of the steel, it's easier to get to the bar.
Of the horse's mouth.
Of the horse's mouth and put pressure on the bar. Well, as you've heard me say before, I'm a real believer in the strength of the tongue pushing the bit away from the bars. Here's a low port. Okay, this is back to form. It's just a low port that I put a cricket in. All right, there is no tongue relief. A horse could put his tongue over that, no sweat. Well, if you get a horse that doesn't put their tongue over it, it works just fine. But I want you to notice is that when you turn it sideways, it's not straight down, it's all the way back. Well, this is form. This is set up for two reasons. The math on this S, a lazy S, it has more torque.
More leverage.
More leverage, okay? It also, the lip of the horse can't get over the cheek piece. If it was straight, they'd be able to lip it. And that's form.
We've all had that wise old horse that can take the cheek piece in his mouth and then go wherever he wants.
Horses, here's another thing. This is form, it's pretty, but function, it helps keep the lip from going around the side. Plus it's a little bit of weight to help it balance. So please understand, when you look at bits, think about the way it was formed, literally, and what is the function of it? What do you need? Well, I hate to be Captain Obvious, but this is the secret, if there is one, to all these bits. Okay, if you put this curb strap on a bit and you put it all the way out to the end and adjust it there because you want to be nice to Brownie, what you've just done is turned your bit completely over in the horse's mouth. Okay, if this was this long and I could put this many fingers inside, as soon as I pull the bit, it's going to turn completely upside down. There's no function to it. So this form can't be complemented unless the curb strap is tight enough to where it actually makes contact with the jaw and works the way it's supposed to work. So the big important thing for me is the correct tightness of a curb strap on any Western bit I'm using. I've been through it before, but the only reason for a curb strap on this bit is to keep it from going all the way through a horse's mouth, like some runaway that you're going to pull it. You can't pull it all the way through the mouth. And on that note, form-wise, that's another reason I put this bend in there, because it was more friendly for not going through the horse's mouth. It's going to slow it down right here. And I hope I'm not babbling here, and I hope I'm clearing something up. So tongue relief is literally what it says. The tongue gets some relief. Yeah, this mouthpiece is generic. This is called a port bit. There was low. This is a low port bit. There's a medium and there's a high. Okay, I went with high because of the tongue, more steel laying on the tongue and making it really lots of room for him to roll the cricket and to pick the bit up.
And for a little bit of signal if you get that good.
And if you can get light-handed enough, you can make a signal bit out of any one of these bits if you're a good enough hand. Okay, it doesn't have to be just a spade. So for those of you that follow the tradition of the spade bit, and sometime you're in the alleyway waiting on a truck, and you want to see how light your horse is, just take the curb strap off. Now back your horse up, turn around. Once you've already weighed the cattle, it don't matter. So chase something down the alley and stick it in the dirt, and you'll find out if it's a signal or a lever. Now I wouldn't recommend that out in the pasture at 30 miles an hour.
Oh, come on.
So form is how it's made. Tongue relief is the subject. I hope this clears it up for the lady, clear as mud. And the function, the main function, is the angle and the form of the cheek piece, meaning this one's bent back, this one's a straight line, okay? This particular bit is one of the 4 bits that I use to come up with the Western bit, and I just didn't make it as long, knowing that if I shortened it up a little bit, it would help the horse break at the withers. How do I know that? Because I've used a whole bunch of bits, and I had all these different bits that I own, and took the best parts of each one to do the across the board, run-of-the-mill, regular Joe that just wants to pull to stop and kick to go. And that's what the Western bit's about. And the curb strap is the key. Okay. I don't know how else to put it. I hope that clears things up.
I think the only thing I would want you to talk about is how none of this works without the concept of collection, at least working towards it in your horses.
Yeah, the word collection. All right, collection and self-carriage. That's the biggest thing missing in Western riding that I see. English riding, it's overkill. They got a bunch of cold-jawed dinks they've been pulling on their whole life, either with a surcingle or their hands, and the horse goes off of that concept. Well, that has nothing to do with Western riding. So Western riding, the nose is sticking out like an armadillo, and that's one reason that Western bits get a bad rap. Well, this will allow you to teach collection, but it's very, very forgiving for a horse that doesn't have collection. Whereas this, if you don't have collection, it isn't going to work at all. And somebody asked me that if a quarter horse can be a spade bit. Yes, a quarter horse can be a spade bit horse. All you got to remember is that the spoon has to lean back farther on a quarter horse typically than an Andalusian horse because of the way they're made genetically. There's more jaw on a quarter horse, so his head is out. Well, you tip the spoon back and it's more comfortable for him because unless you want to put collection on a horse, you're just going to be riding out across the country with a hollow-backed horse that can't listen to your seat bones. That's why you have collection. I'm sure there's a moral here somewhere, and if nothing else, I helped you fall asleep. Thank you.